running through my mind all day, waiting for her show to play. Turn your radio on, she's gonna play your favorite song. Hi, everyone. This is Brandi Richard Thompson, and this is Operation Growth, the show that helps you to grow through what you go through. And I'm thrilled to be here today to talk to you a little bit about growing through motherhood. Yes, we just had Mother's Day. I know it's different for Mother's Day in other parts of the world, but in the US, we just had Mother's Day. And that opened up a lot of trauma for me, a lot of challenge for me personally. And it caused me to think about what does it look like when Mother's Day and motherhood isn't optimal, isn't exactly what you would potentially want it to be. So I started doing some digging and researching like I like to do, and learned that there are 25% of parent relationships in the UK and in the United States. It's a little bit higher in the United States, where parents and children are estranged. And that just really spoke to me because I knew that there were issues that I was having with my daughter, but I wasn't sure if other people were having those same issues. I really felt like I was alone in this feeling of estrangement. And come to find out, there are lots of reasons, especially now, why people are deciding, actually deciding to be separated from the people that brought them into this world. And we think about it a lot as it relates to things like trauma. And so when trauma happens in relationships, whether that is sexual trauma or emotional trauma or what what have you, any type of trauma in your childhood that caused you to um, know that when you became an adult that you no longer wanted to have a relationship with one of your parents or both of your parents, totally something that we've discussed, seen here on the Operation Growth Show. We talk a lot about growing through your trauma, seeking professional help and counseling and things of that nature. And so now that we are squarely in Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, I thought it would be important to talk about the family dynamic as it relates to estrangement and the desire to not only leave your home and what you know and the people who birthed you, for a life on your own, a life of rugged individualism, if you will, as a result of a lot of circumstances. So, trauma is one. Another reason why sometimes people will be estranged from their families are ideals, values, ways of looking at the world. So, whether it was because of politics and whether you are conservative or liberal or agree with certain politicians or other politicians, whether you have certain ideals about how the world should be, some adult children decide that I no longer ascribe to what my parents ascribed to, don't necessarily want to bring that into my life, into the lives of the children that I will now have. And so I don't want to continue on with the relationship. There are also ideals as it relates to gender and sexuality and making decisions about who you choose to be, who you choose to love, how you choose to express yourself sexually, that may be reasons for estrangement and a desire for adult children to pull away from the family unit and go off on their own. But this idea of individualism, while great, can also be challenging. And so when we talk about this desire to move forward in our lives away from the people that we know and have come to know, as our parents and those who took care of us and raised us, there's also the idea that moving away from those people strips you of the family traditions, the typical home cooked meal for Thanksgiving, other things about your family dynamic that you actually did like and did hold dear. And so, as we talk about estrangement and talk about what are the reasons why some folks have decided to become estranged, that can be challenging because when you make that decision, you're also leaving behind some of the things that you did like and some of the things that you did grow accustomed to, um, as you are making a decision to make a hard break and a change in your life based on your morals and ideals and values. Um, Another reason why people make the shift is because they're focused on their own personal growth. And, here we are so happy when people make decisions to focus on them, focus on building themselves up. Maybe the relationships that they had with family members were toxic and challenging to have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy perspective of self while in a relationship with family members that um, don't really allow you to do that. I read a story about a young woman who just felt like her mother was extremely controlling, wanted her to ascribe to not only her morals and values, but also do things the way that she thought that she should do them. And so the adult child just decided that she was sick of this and didn't want to have to deal with that anymore and wanted to move on, be an individual, make her own choices, and therefore become estranged from her mom. And so, as we look at our own health and wellness and what we need to be the types of people that we want to be, I think it's very understandable. It's only human to want to move into a direction that's more healthy for you and your well-being. Someone told me a long time ago, as I was considering leaving a relationship, and I see the decision to be quote unquote estranged from your parents as leaving a long term relationship, that when you do so, you must understand that there will be a lot of things that come with that. Um, a certain level of grief and despair and a market difference from the way that things were before, that you have to understand going into the desire and the decision to end a relationship. And so when you make that decision, if you're dealing with other traumas, other things that are going on in your life and going headfirst into growing through those areas, sometimes you can experience even more emotional upset, even more challenge as a result because of what you're leaving behind. And so he challenged me to think about all of the things that I was dealing with at that time and make a decision that was best for me about how I was going to move into cutting off the relationship with this person as it related to all of the other things that I was navigating in my life. And sometimes there's a sense of overwhelm when you cut everybody off and cut off everything at once. That's really hard to deal with. And so by no means am I saying stay in relationships that are toxic or are dangerous to you. But as you're making these decisions, please, please, please think of not only how challenging the situation is and what you need to do, but think of your next steps so that you don't find yourself back in a toxic situation, um, because you didn't think it all the way through. So, estrangement is a thing. It's something that people are experiencing completely outside of traumas and sometimes outside of moral issues, um, because we all want to make a decision to live our lives in the way that we want to live them. And so there's a level of instability that can come for the individual who chooses to become estranged. There's also a level of humiliation that may result depending on the type of relationship that was there before. The other people that are involved in those relationships, the conversations that will have to come up as a result of those relationships, and a certain amount of stress. And so, again, as my mentor told me when I was making that decision about the person that I was dating, you have to really think through these decisions so that you're not cutting everybody off at the same time, so that you're not um, making harsh decisions in every area of your life all at once because you feel like that's the only way for you to break free. There may be financial consequences associated with it. There may be emotional consequences associated with it. And these intricate family dynamics are challenging to navigate, especially when you have decided to cut off one part of the family and continue to engage with other people in the family. And so I wanted to talk about this idea of estrangement because a lot of us, based on the pandemic, have started to think differently about our relationships with other people. There's been a huge move to leave established relationships, divorce, and other things based on the fact that you were clustered with these people for a long period of time during the pandemic and maybe didn't like them as much as you thought that you did, or issues bubbled to the surface that were challenging to deal with. Um, and when you think about all that the pandemic taught us about community and lack of community, having to Zoom with family members, or not being able to see family members that were in other countries or across the country from you, a lot of emotions and thoughts come up about how important family really is to you. And would you prefer to be closer because you do miss those bonds and you do miss being able to reach out to individuals that you care about, just as you're saying goodbye to other people in your life? And so the impetus for this conversation for me has really been dealing with a desire to get over my own emotional upheaval around someone deciding to be estranged from me, and redefining what motherhood means, what motherhood means at various stages in my life and in the lives of others, which is why I'm sharing this with you. Because once you have raised your children the best that you possibly can and given them the tools that you feel like they need to be successful, and they move into their adulthood, make decisions about their lives, and maybe decide that you are no longer a part of their life, or that they want to step back and take a break from you being a part of their life, whatever that looks like. It can be challenging as a mom to experience the loss, the abandonment almost of a child from this mother adult child relationship. And I felt it so viscerally during Mother's Day this year and leading up to Mother's Day this year, that I thought that instead of talking about how you grow through motherhood from the perspective of your kids teaching you things about yourself and you still being able to have those close relationships where they're continuing to share and talk to you and engage, I wanted to explore what it really feels like and looks like when a hard decision is made. Like, I don't think that a child makes a decision to be estranged from their parent lightly. I think it is based on their own struggle to be self sufficient, to do the things that make the most sense for them, their own desire to be whole and well on their own. Yet at the same time, when someone makes that decision, and you can see this not only in the mother daughter dynamic, but you can see it in the father son dynamic, the mother son, the father daughter, the other dynamics in family, where the relationship that you held on to so closely is no longer the relationship that someone else wants to keep with you. And I talk so much in Healing Invisible Scars and in my book and in my coaching practice about how you grow through the shame, how you grow through the hurt, how you grow through decisions that are made that may not totally be within your control and that are within these relationships that are the closest to you. How do you approach motherhood now? What are you attempting to hold on to claw back, to experience that brings up all of these emotions around the fact that your child isn't interested in engaging with you anymore? I'm exploring it. I'm absolutely exploring it, and exploring it from the perspective of what does that decision prompt in me? What does it do to me? What do I need to heal about me? Um, Forgive myself for, reassess within me so that whenever there's an opportunity to open that relationship back up, to have an additional conversation, to continue to move forward in this mother daughter relationship, that my heart is strong enough and healed enough to be able to deal with it. And I'll share with you a few of the things that have come to me as I've been doing my own work around estrangement. I'm not there yet. I'm still growing through it. Um, but one of the things is around blame. And on the one hand, you can look at a situation and say, okay, well, this person is wrong because they did X, Y, and Z. And because they did this thing and left me, then I'm going to blame them and no longer have loving feelings, loving relationship, even if the relationship is severed with that person, no longer look at them the same way. Because if I can blame them and I can say that it's their fault, then I don't have to deal with my own emotions around the fact that we aren't communicating anymore. I don't have to deal with the fact that it's deeply hurtful not to communicate with the person that I birthed. And I can also feel comfortable and good about myself in the fact that because I'm blaming them, there is no blame for me as mom because I haven't done anything, right? I've done all that I could. I've been the best absolute parent ever. And there's absolutely no reason for this to happen. So I'm going to put blame on them to take the fear, the loneliness, the shame away from me and allow me to continue to experience this idyllic version of motherhood that clearly no longer exists between me and my daughter. So this desire to blame comes up. There's also this anger that I've had to deal with because there's a certain level of I've done all that I could do. I've given all that I possibly can. I went without, I sacrificed, I did all of these things. And therefore, this person should, in return, in return, do certain things for me, like honor your mother and father, and your days will be long on the face of the earth. Like, even if it's challenging for you, continue to talk to your parent because they are so important to you. And that's just how things go and have always gone. And so the anger, and in some instances, actual rage, where do those come from? Where does that emanate from? What does it hide in me? What am I not allowing myself to feel? What am I shielding myself from by just becoming enraged about the fact that this person doesn't want to engage with me anymore? And so working through the anger that other people can be in my daughter's life, but I cannot, um, is still challenging. It's extremely challenging to work through. But understanding where it comes from, the deep place where it comes from, whether that is I'm afraid of getting my heart broken by my daughter, I am afraid that other people will have experiences with her that I'm unable to have with her because we're not communicating at this point. I'm afraid that we won't mend the relationship. All of that fear and anxiety that's within me is mine to work through. And sometimes, as we focus externally on blaming others, being angry with others, having rage in our hearts, we're not focused inwardly on where we need to heal. And so what I've decided to do is spend some time on that internal healing process of my heart because, and as I've shared with you so many times before, we see things that come up as just an occurrence. This is just something that's happening. This is external to me. This person did this to me. And so I'm going to fight back. I'm going to um, knock them out before they knock me out. Um, when in fact, it's an opportunity to see the scar just beneath the surface that's been there the entire time. This scar that is keeping you from living fully, from loving with your whole heart, from being the woman, the mother, the wife, the employee, all of those things that you can possibly be because you're holding on to this scar. You didn't even realize it was there. You thought all the problems were external. You thought that what other people were doing was causing you to feel what you are feeling. When in essence, there's a scar there. And as my mother shared with me the other day, There are some generational scars that I wasn't even thinking about that have to do with our relationship. So there's one. There also is a scar that relates to things that I had to do or felt like I had to do in order to be a good mom. Things that I had to eat, conversations I had to swallow, decisions I felt like I had to make when maybe I really didn't, in order to provide in a way that I thought my daughter needed and desired. So there are all of these things rolled up in my reaction and response to a decision that was made. So much in it. And if I were to stop at, oh, she made this decision, that's on her. There will be estrangement now. Estrangement has begun. Moving on with the estrangement. Now I'm going to go and do other things and live my life in a way that pleases me. Then I don't get to the underlying scar. I don't learn the lesson. I don't start the healing process for me. I don't continue my active personal development, my operation growth. And for me as a coach, then how do I help you if I'm not willing to excavate? And I have so many people that come to me and they're like, I want to coach. I want to be a coach. I'm a coach. I'm going to do coach. I'm going to do coaching. It's going to be great. And I'm like, oh, are you ready for your life to change? Are you ready to get not only real with yourself, but do the necessary work as it comes up along your life journey to get you ultimately to where you need to be? So, estrangement, 25%, a quarter of people, one out of four folks are estranged from their parents. Um, I think estrangement could be a synonym for other things, other areas where we decide to leave and move on from our relationships, especially if those relationships are relationships that we can't totally sever. So you could be estranged from your brother, your sister, your uncle, other folks in your family as a result of all of the issues that we talked about, whether it's trauma or um, differences of opinion, morals, values, those things that are so at the core of who you are. You could be estranged because you just really need to focus on you and release and get away from a toxic environment so that you can do your own growth and healing work. And sometimes that's necessary. Understand that that estrangement comes with a lot. It comes with not being able to go home and have that traditional turkey dinner that you are accustomed to sometimes. It may come with financial destabilization. It could come with just general destabilization because the conversations you would typically have, you don't have anymore. Um, and it can affect the stability not only of you and that individual, but it can affect the stability of you and the entire family. But it also gives you an opportunity. And that is the whole reason why I do this show. Gives you an opportunity to look at the situation squarely in its face and do your own self work and decide whether or not this is an opportunity for you to grow, get better, wiser, smarter, better capable of dealing with these situations as they come up again. Because the hard work that I'm doing now to heal my broken heart will serve me in every area of my life. And and when you do something in one place, you typically do it everywhere. So the way that I've handled my relationship with my daughter, the way that I have handled my own forgiveness of myself is something that I'm most probably doing in other places. And I've already identified a couple of places that I'm doing it. So, this isn't the motherhood show that you most probably wanted, but I can guarantee you it's the one that you need, because in order for us to heal from the traumas, the challenges, the hardships in life, got to look beneath the surface. You got to heal up those invisible scars so that you can grow. So, active personal development is my way of life. I asked God to grow, and He said, "Here you go, Brandy." And then He keeps saying it over and over and over and over again. I keep getting more insight on how I can grow as a human being, as a coach, as a mom, because whether or not I am estranged, it doesn't change the fact that I am a mom. So I hope that my growth helps you. And to all of you mothers out there, whether you are in great relationship or whether things are kind of rough right now, keep your head up.